worldwide movement. Peace, love, respect. Big King Sadiq hollering at you one more again. All right, man. I love you all. I thank you all so much. It's early in the day, not yet quite 8 a.m. yet, right? And as I come out of my early day practices, starting the day off in a beautiful, powerful way, like I do every day. um, yeah, man. I just wanted to take a moment because I've been thinking about a subject, particularly this AM. Uh, and I'm gonna be brief, but this is important, right? Um, Two parent families, folks. We, unfortunately, in this nation, have gotten away from a lot of things that were strengths, right? Um, and that were extreme benefits to our development as people, right? As human beings maturing in this world, right? One of the most powerful things that is an aid to us is our upbringing, right? The way that we grow up is very powerful in how it impacts the way we live the rest of our lives, I would say, right? Um, and having two loving parents, right? A mother and a father. I understand there are different roles. I'm not, um, these days, there may be two parent households um, that may fall under different models. I'm not judging anyone, right? Um, and I'm not denouncing anyone or saying that, you're wrong. That's for each individual to debate. But I do want to point out the benefits of a two parent household with a mother and a father, right? Again, I'm not going to take a lot of time on this, but folks, there is so much that the child gets from receiving true unconditional love and guidance, right? Some of the most important guidance that we ever get in our lives because our parents teach us some most of our very first lessons in life, right? That is profoundly important in the development of a person. A mother and a father both administer love in a different way. And there is a fundamental difference to the expression of unconditional love in the facet that a woman would give to her child, and the difference between the facet of uncontrollable love, unconditional love, excuse me, that a man would give to his child. Folks, men and women are different in many ways and have very different perspectives at times, right? It is a wealth of knowledge. It is a wealth of love for a child to be able to pull upon, to experience, to benefit, to grow from, and to know those two very distinct types of love, the love of a mother and the love of a father, right? Both are vital and are powerfully contributive and or a powerful aid to the emotional, spiritual, and even intellectual development of that child. Not to mention having access to and enjoying the life of being raised by two parents gives the child the ability to see the world in a very stable way, right? And to be able to better see themselves functioning in society in some capacity that is beneficial both for them as the individual and the collective, right? Um, we don't need a history lesson from me, folks. We know the troubles, the difficulties that have existed between men and women in parenting in this country and around the world, right? Um, in some ways, I would speak directly to peoples of color, right? Um, melanated folks, as we certainly have been the predominant target of the socially economic elites negative and harmful social engineering plots, we'll say, right? Um, that have really attacked our family structures and caused us to like lean on stereotypes about ourselves that we then end up bringing to fruition. You know, anybody who took a look at comedians of the 80s and 90s, I don't know too much about in the 2000s because honestly, I kind of fell away from a lot of stand-up comedy, not all of it, right? There's some genius comedians out there who have given great contributions to the world. Certainly not an attack on comedy. But I noticed just personally, personal observations through those time periods, how there was a continual focus on keeping up the stereotype of black men, quote unquote black men, melanated men, not wanting to, failing to, or simply altogether disappearing for the job of being a father. Now, as I've grown um, and become a father myself, and certainly have gotten to know so many other uh, men out there who have children, it's not the case, right? And I've spoke about this in previous videos, how that's a stereotype that is incredibly harmful and is absolutely not true, right? Particularly as of late. Now, there was a time, don't get me wrong, there was a time where we had been indoctrinated to almost think it was cool to be like baby mother dodging, right? Um, and again, that was a product of indoctrination. But I don't see that, right? And I have not seen that for years, for a great many of years now, right? For well over a decade. I've seen instead a generation of young men who've grown up without their fathers, or at least if they haven't, you know of someone who has grown up without their father, right? Usually a friend or several. And subsequently, I see now a real fervent and solemn vowing almost, right? Collective vowing to not let that happen to another generation. So from what I have observed, quite simply, that's not the case, right? Melanated fathers are very loving, very invested in their children's lives, um, and understand full well how harmful it is and how detrimental, how much it can hold back the development or alter the development and growth of a person, uh, a child growing up without a father. Also, that conversely takes me to what else I have noticed, which is unfortunately women who've gotten bad advice, right, on using their child as a pawn of power, so to speak, right? Using visitation rights or using um, the ability to spend time with and raise your child for the father, using control over that time as some form of leverage or power, or even in some cases, revenge. And I've clearly seen, I know of, personally know of cases where women have sought to punish a man that they may have personal uh, grievance with or some problem with. They've used that, uh, not allowing them to see their child as a form of punishment. When in reality, for whatever reason, a woman may keep her child away from his father, especially a father who wants to participate in their child's life, right? Which I've seen this many, many times. And this is something that's got to stop as well. Anytime a woman does that, you are truly hurting that child. You truly are. Not to mention your own personal development, right? That is certainly um, not something that exhibits spiritual maturity, right? Um, and like I said, when it comes to what it does to that child, one, you're now creating a circumstance that we actually grew out of, right? We grew out of the, or had begun to show vast improvement, at least should I say, in growing out of having fatherless homes in our community, only to turn around and now have um, those situations where women are actually creating a fatherless environment for their child and hurting the child. And believe me, ladies, though that may not be your surface intention or your intention at all, you are hurting your child by keeping their father out of their life. Um, Certainly, you may be accomplishing your goal of hurting the father because, again, I've I've seen and understand that today's melanated father, today's quote unquote black father, today's father of color is very loving, very invested in their child's lives, and would certainly be hurt if missing even, you know, a small period of time from their child's life, let alone significant time, right? Um, there are also a lot of men who never get celebrated, who not only raise their own, but who have absolutely no problem raising the child of another, right? So, what I'm saying is the most ideal situation, or rather, the most beneficial, the most nurturing situation is for a child to have two loving parents. And when you have a mother and a father, you get those two very different and distinct, but equally important. Did you hear that? Different and distinct, but equally important forms of love that a child needs to grow up stable, to grow up well nurtured, and to grow up in an environment that they can develop, right? And grow into a well balanced human being, right? Do we ever stop and think that perhaps our society would benefit immensely for more well adjusted, well balanced human beings who very well and certainly would benefit from having grown up in a two-parent household? Folks, don't get me wrong. I'm not bashing single parents at all. And I still salute those single parents, whether you be a man or a woman, because folks, believe me, it does exist. Both single parent men and women. I salute you in doing the best you can to take up that slack. And your child will salute you and remember you attempting to take up that slack. But let us not confuse that with the more ideal situation, the situation that benefits our children so much more, to have two loving parents, a mother and a father who can give two different perspectives, forms, two different ways of administering true unconditional love. And perhaps with more children growing up that way, we can have more well adjusted, more balanced human beings who don't have such difficulty administering true unconditional love to others. Very important, folks. Let's think about that. Let's not hurt ourselves. Let's not hurt our own communities. Let's not hurt our own families by hurting our children and keeping them from having the beautiful environment of a loving two-parent household. All right. Thank you all. I love you all. Took a little bit longer than I had planned, but we know that's not all that unusual for me, unfortunately. Uh, ah, Usually I'm getting some good stuff in when I'm long-winded. Listen, man, I love you all. I thank you all. Let's continue to build this worldwide